Let's talk about chapter 12 and 13 today. And our book, it starts with food. So if you're following along, chapter 12 is going to be on page 136. It's like 2 pages long, kind of explains what the rest of the book is going through now. And then chapter 13 is going to be meat, seafood, and eggs. But good news is, all the food groups that were like, try not to eat this, this is what's bad for you, all of that is done. So now it's like, great, what do we eat that is good for us, that can help, that's healthy, that makes us feel better? So there's definitely a shift with the food now. But it is important to understand, like, of all the things we eat, I want to know there's a possibility of this reacting poorly with my body, and here's some of the symptoms to watch for, right? And then also how to get a healthy gut so that you can process all these foods. So let's kind of do a little bit of a recap. Like I said, chapter 12 is really short. It's basically adding all this up. So they say we're finished talking about all the food and beverages that we think will make you less healthy or cause symptoms, right? We discussed how these foods can be problematic when eaten in isolation. They can be psychologically unbalancing, hormone unbalancing, gut disrupting, or immune system provoking, sometimes all at once, depending on the food group, right? And because we eat them all together, right, we put peanut butter on whole wheat toast with a glass of milk. We have 3-bean chili with sour cream and cheese. We eat cereal with soy milk for breakfast, make a sandwich for lunch, eat macaroni and cheese for dinner. And the effects of these foods on our bodies and brains are cumulative, because as you saw, each one of those different food groups, as we pull together to make them a meal, right, they could potentially, each one of them have a different response in our body. So again, it's just listening to what your body can tolerate and how you feel, and hopefully none of these things bother you. Remember how we talked about insulin and leptin resistance, right? How those receive and send messages for your body, the hormones to work properly, telling you how to utilize the sugar in your blood to when you're satiated, when you're full, all those really important hormones. Doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. Just like the gut doesn't become chronically leaky from one meal, it also takes time for persistent permeability to develop. Chronic systemic inflammation isn't always observable. It's a silent, subtle, insidious process. Sometimes as a result of our collective dietary habits and their long-term effects, your bodily systems slowly start to break down. That's when autoimmune issues and diseases pop up. So that's why the whole point of this is to understand how a lot of the foods, or the amount of the foods that we're eating with our body that cause those problems, we need to understand why we get sick, why we get autoimmune diseases. So we're gonna talk about that literally page and a half, and that's it. So under normal conditions, your immune cells won't attack cells that are your own body, right? So in certain cases, however, immune cells get confused and attack your own body, causing the damage that we know as an autoimmune disease. There are more than 80 known autoimmune diseases, and many of them that are more suspected to be autoimmune in nature. Organs and tissues frequently affected include the thyroid, pancreas, adrenal glands, red blood cells, arteries and gut, myelin sheath, or neurons. Skin, muscles, and joints. And autoimmune conditions, several of which we've kind of talked about, like MS, lupus, celiac disease, Hashimoto's, Graves, rheumatoid arthritis, type 1 diabetes, pernicious anemia. But it's interesting with autoimmune diseases, they're thought to develop from the interaction of an environmental factor with a specific hereditary component. So it's the whole epigenetics thing, right? You may have the gene for celiac disease, but if you're never exposed to gluten, your chances of developing the disease and suffering from the symptoms are slim to none. Environmental factors, infectious disease, and stress play a role in pulling the trigger on a genetic predisposition to autoimmune diseases, but food may play the most significant role of all. So this is where I will interject personally. I've kind of talked a little bit about this, but so I got tested. Not just a blood test, but like a genetic test, and I am positive for celiac disease, the gene that holds it. But because I don't eat grains or gluten, any corn, rices, nothing, then I don't have celiac, so I'm okay, right? So that's what they say, that if I ate that food, then that would be the environmental factor that would bring out all of the symptoms and problems that come with celiac. Stress is one that I want to point out. That is what has kind of blown my gut up. So last year was obviously really, really stressful for my family, and going through that's the environmental factor that unleashed a whole bunch of other issues I didn't realize were going on inside my body. And so now I have the systemic inflammation. I have some of these autoimmune things that they're talking about, and I'm on a protocol to help reduce that. But the biggest thing is reducing the amount of environmental stressor that did it, which was the stress. So now I got to do a lot of things that kind of calm me down in that sense. So anything can be stressful, from a job loss to an interaction with a family member or a child, to going through a divorce like I did. Like, there are a lot of things that and that can spur this, but also some of us have a higher tolerance for stress than others. So when we talk about autoimmune, we've got to look at food, right? stress, what are all the other things they said? Any of the environmental factors we all have. And so just be, listen to your symptoms, listen to your body. And then there's tons of us coaches out there that can help you once you do get into a situation like that. Like I'm now taking care of mine. So I'm trying to remember where I want to go. Not all this is important. So, and then he talks a little bit about the gut. So do you remember the significance of maintaining an appropriate barrier between the outside and inside? So you remember they talked about it like being a bar, and there's like the good guys and the bad guys that get in, and then we have all of the bouncers basically that keep the bad things out but the good things in, the cells in the gut. So that barrier, when it's compromised, is when we end up with a leaky gut. So as a result of the increased intestinal permeability, meaning that things can get in and out of the gut, whereas with the bouncers we're supposed to keep all of the what they call the bad guys out, right? Good things stay in, bad things stay out. If it's permeable, things are going to go in and out. Bacteria and their toxins, undigested food, and waste may leak out of the intestines into the bloodstream. So that can be an issue. And then remember that 70 to 80% of our body's immune system is stationed in our gut. So that's a huge thing. If the gut is off, so can our immune system. So when the garrison of immune cells encounter stuff inside the body that doesn't belong there, they react very strongly. So that foreign invader is just a piece of incompletely digested chicken protein that's allowed to sneak right inside the body accidentally. And then a leaky gut forces the immune system to attack things that could be totally harmless, like the piece of chicken. And if they stayed where they had belonged, in the stomach. But since they didn't, your immune system now identifies that chicken protein as foreign and attacks it. This is one theory on how food allergies are born. A leaky gut lets partly digested food go where it does not belong, triggering an immune response and potentially creating a reaction to otherwise healthy food. So again, if things are off, we have leaky gut, chicken from inside leaks through, and it has small particle or not outside, our body doesn't, because it's not supposed to be there, right? It's supposed to be inside the stomach and the gut, and it attacks it. So it's just interesting knowing what you eat, right? How it impacts all this. So leaky gut can become a confused immune system, which can become an autoimmune disease. The good news is that most of the cumulative effects, the unhealthy psychological effects, the metabolic dysfunction, the gut permeability, the systemic inflammation, and perhaps even the symptoms of autoimmune conditions itself are in most cases highly reversible. So if you do have any of those issues, that like I have, right? Stress has blown, sugar's impacted my gut, and inflammation is everywhere. So I've experienced a lot of this, which is why I think it's interesting. You just have to know, okay, these symptoms aren't normal, and I just need to adjust it by either reducing stress or reducing some of the food. That's why I'm not doing sugar or grains right now. And then you start to feel better. So it's just all education, as I keep saying. So this chapter now is more informative. There's nothing that's saying don't do this. I want to talk a little bit about meat, seafood, and eggs so that you have the best knowledge you can on what type of meat, how often to eat it, so that we can get all the benefits from these. So they start by saying, usually at this point, people start wondering what the heck they're supposed to eat. We assure you that there are lots of good foods on your horizon. So let's talk about the foods that meet all 4 of our good food standards. So remember, we talked about foods that don't meet those standards. And now finally, it's like, okay, well, what foods do then? They also offer, it says you can download the detailed shopping list, which is complete with their best choice recommendations from their website before flipping to the section if you'd like. And so I love resources like this because it's like, well, great, if I can't eat this or this, tell me what I can eat. So it is whole30.com, which is WHOLE30.com. And then it's just a /PDF-downloads. And then you can get that. You can always email me if you need help with that. So she's going to talk about, on a good, better, best, how the healthiest choices that we can make are. So we want you to eat meat, seafood, and eggs. You know, all of the things that our great grandparents ate, like beef, chicken, and salmon. You don't have to eat liver and tongue, although you can if you want to. That's all right. We're not encouraging you to be carnivores, but including the same high quality, nutrient dense protein with each meal doesn't sound, very radical. It's just good to get protein in. We want you to balance the protein with plenty of plant matter, namely vegetables and fruit. So you don't have to juice or take super green pills or replace one meal a day with a smoothie. We just want you to eat your veggies. A dietary plan that recommends you eat a wide variety of nutritious vegetables, and fruit. Finally, we're going to include healthy fats in your meals, not fast food cheeseburger fat, not seed oil fat, and not fake plastic butter-like foods fat. Healthy sources of fat to provide energy and keep your metabolism working. So this next section will close the doors on things, right? We've closed the doors on things that we don't want to eat. Now it's like, yeah, give me resources of what I should be eating. So first up is animal protein. The first category of foods that make you healthier includes meat, seafood, and eggs. So this is the first chapter with this. All dense protein sources without any of the downsides of vegetarian protein sources like kidney beans, whole grains, and tofu. And we'll get back to that. You remember why we need adequate protein, right? It's necessary so people think protein is just for muscles. So if I'm not working out, I don't need protein, right? If I don't want to get bulky or jacked, then I don't need protein, because we kind of tend to think of like male bodybuilders always talking about protein. That's not the case. You need protein at a cellular level. It does repair broken muscle tissue, yes, but it repairs all of the cell tissues throughout your whole body that are constantly turning over. It's necessary for growth and repair of your skin, hair, tendon, ligament, and muscles. Helps you recover from general activity and exercise. It's also used to produce hormones, enzymes, neurotransmitters, and antibodies. Your protein is very important. So think of protein is made of amino acids. There are 21 amino acids, and 9 of those are essential, meaning that they cannot be synthesized by the body. So it must be obtained from other food. That's what that means. And then you've got a complete protein is a protein source that contains all the essential amino acids in useful proportions and quantities. And all animal protein sources are complete, while most plant protein sources are incomplete. So that's important to understand. So protein, to get the benefits of it working, you've got to have the 21 amino acids. And so you'll hear, like even if you Google a complete versus non-complete protein source, you've got to have all amino acids for it to work and do its job. The problem when they say most plant-based proteins are incomplete protein sources, that's where I talk to a lot of clients where they're like, hey, I'm trying to get as much protein as I can, but it's mostly because I don't want to do meat, which is fine, all individual preferences, but I'm doing this, this, or this, and they're all plant-based. And I'm like, well, that's great. Or like even a plant-based protein powder, right? But they're not all 21 essential amino acids. So it's not working. It's not getting the full efficacious dose. And so that's why they're not seeing the results of eating that much protein. So if you don't consume meat, dairy, things like that, where we get the whole 21 amino acids and it's a complete protein source, you've got to be very, very careful to add that. So I always tell people, because there's like one protein brand that's protein shakes I get all the time. Hey, this is the protein shake I use. It's plant-based. We look at the label and make sure like it works. Well, works is relative, but what the question to me is it a complete or incomplete protein source? And it's not. So if you have a plant protein source as a protein shake, make sure you also take an essential amino acid, which is just a supplement that I take. I drink it every day I'm in the gym, but you would want to make sure and pair that. Or the vegan plant-based protein shakes that I sell have the protein from the pea protein isolate and the brown rice, and then it also has essential amino acids added, right? 5 grams of that. So it is a complete protein source because we've taken the plant protein, which is not complete, and added essential amino acids for it to be complete. So if you're taking a protein shake or a vegan protein shake, you've got to make sure that you have both, or it's not doing you the good job. It's not a complete protein source. And then it will go through and talk about other plant-based, because some are complete protein sources, but only a couple. The majority aren't. And I want you to get the full benefit. So that's that whole tangent. Protein is, in addition to the physiological needs of all the things that it does for you, it's the more satiating of all the macros. Upon digestion, complete proteins send signals to your brain that tell you to stop eating as you are full and well nourished. Eating meals and snacks that include moderate servings of complete protein will help you avoid overconsumption, effectively starve off hunger pains, and maintain a healthy body weight. So what are animal protein sources? So here's a couple, right? You've got meat, beef, buffalo, bison, elk, lamb, venison, moose, and goat. We've got poultry, chicken, duck, turkey, pheasant, ostrich, quail. Others like pork, wild boar, and rabbit. You've got seafood, tons, fish, mollusks, scallops, clams, crustaceans, lobster, shrimp. Eggs, usually from chickens, various organ meats, liver, tongue, kidney meat, and then various from bones are the marrow and the bone broths. All those are really important. I try to get a lot of those. So while bone broths are not a dense source of protein, they do provide valuable amino acids not found in large quantities in muscle meat. They're also an excellent source of vitamins and minerals, including calcium and magnesium, and digestive tract healers like gelatin, because it's collagen. There are several delicious bone broth recipes that they include in the appendix. I drink bone broth every single morning. It's the first thing I do on an empty stomach, and that is making a really big difference with my gut because there are a lot of valuable things with that. Not all meat is created equal though. There are two things we consider above all else when evaluating the quality of our animal protein. Here's what matters: the way the animal was raised and the food it was fed, because you are literally eating what it was eating, right? If it's fed crappy crap, that's what's going to happen to the meat, right? Because there's not micronutrients that we want from that. Both factors contribute significantly to the health of the animal, the quality of its meat, and ultimately our health if that's what we're eating. So briefly, animals raised in a natural environment and allowed to express their normal social and biological behaviors are healthier and require fewer medical interventions. For cows, this means they're raised on pasture. So that's why I always look for my meat that says pasture raised. For chicken and pigs, it means they've got free, unrestricted access to pasture or grazing land. Animals raised in a natural environment in a truly organic fashion, certified or otherwise, aren't given growth hormones, preventative antibiotics, or other potentially toxic substances, and have less exposure to pesticides, fertilizers, heavy metals, and other environmental toxins. They're allowed to eat their natural diet. So that's why it's a big deal. Well, okay, so my cow has more room to roam around on. What does that do? It allows them to eat natural diet. This means cows and sheep eat all the ruminants, eats grass. Chicken and pigs, omnivores, eat forage for roots, seeds, insects, worms. These are healthier, but their meat is also measurably healthier compared with the industrially raised product. It contains more vitamins, minerals, healthy fats, and fewer environmental toxins. Since the animals are healthier, grass-fed and pastured, they're also less likely to transmit the harmful E. coli bacteria through their meat. So again, I know it's a sensitive topic, organic or not. I don't always buy organic vegetables. They're overpriced. I don't want to pay the money for them. We'll talk about that in a second. But meat is one thing I don't mess with because hormones are injected, and I don't want to give that to my kids, and I don't want it. And so I am a little bit picky about where my meat comes from. I want to know how it was fed. And so that's, again, good, better, best. Just be aware that there is a big deal if they are antibiotic free and hormone free. Fish, especially, and eggs don't usually come from that situation. They're usually a small scale farm. 99% of our farm animals are raised and slaughtered in assembly line fashion and mass production operation known as factory farming. Factory farms don't have the green pastures, red barns most Americans imagine when they think of a farm. Factory farms are large industrial facilities that produce high volume with little to no regard for the health of the animal or the consumer. And you guys know that. The old adage, you are what you eat, we like to take that one step further, borrowing a clever turn of a phrase, you are what you eat eats. You are what you eat eats. So do keep in mind, especially with meat, you want to be really careful about that. So let's talk about vitamin, minerals, and meat. So you're concerned about eating all the saturated fat, aren't you? We thought so. Remember how we cautioned you against oversimplifying the nutrients in food? Well, much as dairy just isn't calcium, and right, so like dairy isn't, we don't just drink it for calcium. There's a lot of other reasons we drink it. The same with whole grains aren't just fiber. Red meat isn't just saturated fat. There's a lot of good things that come with these topics. Many people think of meat, seafood, and eggs as protein or as saturated fat delivery mechanisms. But did you know that meat is also a dense source of micronutrients, some of which you simply cannot get from plants? So all types of meat contain the most bioavailable forms of vitamin B12, a nutrient essential for good health, and then iron called heme iron. You simply can't get adequate B12 on this form of iron from plants, yet another reason to throw steak in the Barbie. So again, each their own. If you don't do meat, totally understand. But you do need to understand that if you don't eat meat, we've got to get those micronutrients from somewhere else. To quell some of your meat concerns, we'll also assure you that we want you to vary your animal protein sources. We don't think you should eat ribeyes at every single meal 7 days a week, even if they're grass-fed or organic. Different meats contain different vitamins and minerals, so the more you rotate the foods you eat, the better chance you'll have of getting the full complement of micronutrients that make you healthier. If you don't like certain types of meat, that's okay. There's still plenty of other ways for you to get the micronutrients. Because the whole point of this is, what do I get out of my food? It's gonna make me feel better and healthier, or not better and less healthy, right? And so you want a variety so you get the micronutrients from all the different ones. So another question, can I eat eggs every day and how many eggs can I eat? The answer is yes, you can eat them every day and just eat a reasonable amount. The concern with eggs is generally in reference to the egg yolk and comes from a health conscious who worry about their cholesterol. Generally, you've been told that eggs are cholesterol bombs, but cholesterol in their body comes primarily from their diet, and that cholesterol is inherently bad. So let's kind of clear that up. First, we don't take like a reductionist view. So eggs are more than just cholesterol, right? There's a lot of things. We can't just look at one aspect of the food. They're packed with protein, half in the white, half in the yolk, and pastured eggs provide more than a dozen essential nutrients, including A, B12, D, and E, brain health, healthy choline, omega-3 fatty acids, and healthy lutein, all of which are found in the yolk. That being said, one large egg does have almost 200 milligrams of cholesterol. And so since eggs are high in cholesterol, eating those every single day could increase your blood cholesterol, leading to heart disease and stroke. So that's why you just are smart with your food and choose how often you would like to eat those. There's a lot more on cholesterol. In addition, cholesterol, don't worry, it's not evil. It's a necessary part of our hormonal production and cellular structure. You need cholesterol for the production of hormones like cortisol, estrogen, and testosterone, to make vitamin D, to build and repair cell walls, and to produce bile acids and salts to help you digest your food. It's also critical for normal function of neurons, including those in the brain. So that means our goal is not to get to zero cholesterol. In fact, cholesterol levels that are too low are quite harmful and increase your risk for a variety of disorders, including cancer, depression, stroke, and anxiety. So the goal is to arrive at a place of appropriate cholesterol levels with numbers that reflect a low risk for lifestyle-related diseases and conditions. And with high cholesterol, it's not always an indicator of disease. As with everything, the context matters. So again, you're just educating yourself so you know the ramifications of some of these things, and then you do what is best for you. That talks a little bit more about cholesterol and cholesterol numbers. Measuring just total cholesterol is kind of like watching a movie trailer. It gives you a rough idea of what's going on, but you need far more information to evaluate the whole story. A better big picture strategy is to use cholesterol measurements in conjunction with other lab values to paint a multifaceted picture of your overall health. In summary, eating cholesterol-rich foods as part of a healthy anti-inflammatory diet like this one is not problematic. If you're following our good food recommendations, your body won't need to overproduce cholesterol, which means it's totally safe for you to consume some in your food. We're okay with regular consumption of whole eggs, even if you're eating 5 or 6 at a time, as part of the varied high-quality diet that we're going to outline, because they will outline what we should be eating. In a 2008 study summarized, there's no convincing evidence to link an increased dietary intake of cholesterol or eggs with coronary heart disease. And so you're okay to eat eggs, is what they're saying. So last thing is processed meats. One last word on processed meats like bacon, sausage, deli meat, and beef jerky. While these foods are certainly convenient, they're not always the healthiest choice. Bacon and sausage often contain just as much fat, protein, and if that meat is coming from the factory farming system, that fat contains a whole lot of potentially toxic byproducts. As with all protein, the quality of the meat and the manner in which it was processed determine how healthy the end product will be. So again, they're encouraging you, make sure you understand what you're putting in your mouth so that our body functions properly. All of it comes down to, are you getting enough vitamins and micronutrients? You know, sometimes we just think about the bigger macros, my protein number, my carb number, my fat number, but you want healthy fats, right? Healthy carbs and a good variety of meat, because all of those foods do different things. Every vitamin has a whole bunch of cellular processes that it's responsible for inside your body. We want those to all run so we don't have inflammation, we don't have gut problems, we feel good, we function well, and we age very, very, I want to say easily, so that there's less health conditions to worry about. So we got to take care of ourselves here so that we, feel better 10, 15, 20 years from now, even 5 years from now. So again, get a variety of meat, and we're going to talk about fruits and vegetables, some of the differences, which ones to make sure and add to your plates so that you get the most bang for your buck.